Welcome back, everyone. It's just another day in the life as a military wife. Recently, I re-encountered a research study that I covered in university, but this study was presented in a new perspective that was a huge wake-up call for me and radically changed the way I view my relationship with my smartphone and other electronic devices. And because it was so impactful for me, I want to share this information with you in hopes that it might help. So that's what we are talking about today in this episode. As always, I am your host, Sam Wolf, and you're listening to Life of a Military Wife. All right, everybody. So, yes, this episode's a little bit late. We took a family day. You know, I believe in work-life balance, so family time is important. But I wanted to get this information to you guys because it impacted me in a really profound way, and I felt like it was something I should share with all of you. So, recently I was on social media and re-encountered a research study. It's called the Still Face Study. It was done in 1972 by Dr. Edward, and it is in reference to how children, especially young children, babies, use their parents, specifically their mothers, in the case of this one study clip that I will link, to understand and interact and emotionally regulate. So, they use parents to emotionally regulate because they're still learning how to understand and interpret the environment around them. And your reactions and expressions to them help them understand how they should react and feel in regards to the environment they're in. So what happens is tells the mom to have a blank face and not emotionally regulate or sync with her child. And the child just loses it because it doesn't know how to handle the world. So this was brought up in regards to iPhones, specifically, smartphones, technology. So what happens with our child when we're on our phone and they're trying to emotionally regulate, get our attention, express their feelings or something, especially when they're in that nonverbal stage in early development, and we're not responding because we're on TikTok or Facebook or Pinterest or whatever. And so they're getting a still face from us, which to them is a sign of a rejection, but we don't mean it that way. We totally love them and care, but because we're focused more on our cell phone, they're getting a still face treatment and not our emotional responses. And that just hit me like a ton of bricks because y'all know I got baby cuteness and I have other kids. Now, luckily, in my opinion, I feel I didn't have a smartphone for most of their younger childhood years, but I had other forms of technology. How often are we trained into some form of technology or something else and we're not emotionally attuning to our children? What effect is that going to have? What is that going to do? And in screen time in general, how is this impacting children? Now, we know post COVID, there's been a lot of concerns about all of that. But as I started to dig into this and I started to dig into different things that have been happening, it became unnerving for me to notice the trend in which our children are online, not because of the content, that in and of itself is a whole nother conversation, but due to the effects it has in their ability to form their interpersonal relationship skills, communication skills, language skills. What effect is that happening? And that led me down, my little research rabbit hole that I love to go down for all of you guys and for myself as well. And I ran into a research study from 2017. And this research study was published in the American Okay, it's the American Pediatrics. It's AAP. Let's make sure I'm getting my acronyms right, people. Haha. The American Academy of Pediatrics, because I know my acronyms, right? Right. It's not that I don't live in an alphabet soup of military life plus everything else. Okay, so the AAP put out or published this research study, and it was the effects on screen time on 18-month-olds. And it was really just kind of mind blowing because it showed that there was a 49% increased risk in expressive speech delays for every 30-minute increase in screen time at young ages. Now, I've seen a lot of different things that'll be like, here's apps for kids and babies and toddlers and shows for them. And in all sincerity, there's a reason why babies need to be learning from a human being. They can't emotionally regulate with the TV. And if they're learning to emotionally regulate with your TV and you shut the TV off and they don't know how to emotionally regulate with you, what is that going to do with you? Then, on top of it, they're saying now they're finding it can cause expressive speech delays. So, what is expressive speech? That is something, if we're going to talk about delays, let's know what we're talking about. There's different aspects of speech. And expressive speech is what your child is able to say. So when they are communicating with a person and interacting, they're having immediate feedback to exactly what they're saying. But when they're put in front of a TV screen or a smartphone or any other technology, that's not going to have the same immediate feedback response. So they might be interacting with the TV, but the TV cannot interact with them or the smartphone or whatever. And so their ability to express themselves can be delayed. And so it's shocking. And for me, it was shocking to see all of this because we've been using electronic babysitters for over a generation now. The electronic babysitters are a thing, and I'll admit it. I was a latchkey kid because my mom was a working mom, and because of that, I know that I had more screen time than was probably best for me. Now, I reached a certain amount of a certain point in time because it was the good old days, and whatever was on TV was what was on TV, and on demand was not a thing. So if I was bored with what was on TV or with what my brothers wanted to watch, I would have to find something else to do. And very frequently, I would read or do something else, call a friend, whatever. And that was a huge blessing in the long run, coming to realize it, that I didn't have unfettered access to the internet or on demand anything. And so when I got bored with technology, I had to entertain myself the good old fashioned way, which looking back was probably a really wonderful thing. We also didn't have computer games or video games that I liked, at least. And we only had one console. My brothers would play it, and therefore I had no access. So it worked out for me. Now, that may not be the same for everyone in my generation. I am a older millennial. Yes, I'm dating myself a little bit, but y'all know I have 4 kids, so you didn't think I was a spring chicken. Anyway, back to the subject at hand. So we've got a whole generation that grew up as latchkey kids. Okay, not a whole generation. Some people in my generation were fabulously blessed to have stay-at-home mothers, and that's why I've chose to be a stay-at-home mom largely myself, is because I saw the benefits from my friends who had that blessing in their life. So we know about the still face, we know about emotional regulation, we know that children need these things. That study was done in the 70s. We know that because of this 2017 study that it's causing issues with speech delays. That was in 2017 before COVID. And then all of a sudden, we're putting preschool age children in front of TV screens or computer screens for online school all through COVID. And now we're seeing massive delays, academic delays. It- I mean, I can only imagine why we have so many discipline issues in schools now. And it just was completely shocking and eye opening for me. And so I'm going to point out, I don't want to just be doomsday. Oh my gosh, we've ruined our kids. A whole generation is broken. No, I feel like once we identify a problem, we don't need to then go throw a pity party. Let's find out what resources we have. This is something I try to do with you guys all the time on my podcast, and I've tried to teach in classes. This is something I feel passionate about. When we recognize a stressor event, we recognize something's wrong, we need to work on our perspective and we need to work on our resources because those are going to be the most effective way to tackle the problem and overcome it. So, when I saw this, when I realized that I was inadvertently still facing my children when I'm on my phone, I immediately started to do a self-evaluation. What can I do differently? And then as I was looking at all these outcomes and all these different situations with these research studies, especially the 2017 study, in regards to the speech delays, what can I do differently? So I started to look these things up. First things first, I'm going to tell you what the experts say, specifically in regards to the speech delays. If you're seeing this in your kid, if you're recognizing, oh my goodness, this has happened with my family too, how can I fix this? This is what the experts say. This is what I found. Went to multiple sources, multiple things, and it talks about what we can do. And it says, first, focus on communication. Talk with your kids, make sure you're singing, encouraging them. Start as babies. Talk to your babies, not in baby talk, but talk to your babies. Now you can use silly sounds and words too. And intonation, inflection is good. Singing is great. Singing with your kids is wonderful. Rhymes are good. Read to babies, read to your children. And that is huge. That's the next thing they said. Start reading to your children as babies. Look at the books first. Appreciate the pictures. Point out things. Maybe they're not going to listen to a chapter book. I'm just going to tell you this straight up. But read to your kids, read to them anything. Find things you're interested. What was your favorite book as a kid? And that is going to be a huge impact for them because that's going to help them to build that vocabulary they're going to need if they're having that expressive language delay, if they're having a hard time finding the words to express their feelings and thoughts. Part of they said sometimes the symptoms with kids who are having this is they'll talk in circles because they don't have the vocabulary. Now, as someone who has tried to learn multiple different languages, that's something you actually do when you're learning a new language in general, is you'll talk in a circle around the thing you're trying to explain because you don't have the word for it. So the more we're reading to our children, the more vocabulary we're introducing to them, the better able they are going to be able to then internalize and use that enriching vocabulary to express how they're feeling so that we know how to help them. And when children have that, when they're armed with that ability to express how they're feeling and what's going on inside of them internally, that helps cut down on misunderstandings and discipline issues and all of those other stuff. It helps them ask for help and it can cut down on other things like depression and interpersonal relationship issues. So much of communication is knowing how to understand what you're feeling and express it effectively. Even as an adult, I have run into barriers of understanding what is going on in my head and then being able to effectively communicate it to someone else. Typically, my husband, I'm going to be straight up. I'll be overwhelmed because of something. I'm not exactly sure why I'm overwhelmed. And I feel overwhelmed and I get frustrated with him. And I have to stop and I have to self evaluate and I have to figure out why I'm overwhelmed. And then I can properly express it to him. And then usually he's like, oh, yeah, that totally makes sense. Let's work on that together. And it's the same for kids. So let's read to our kids. Let's help give them the vocabulary. But there's other things we can do as well. So I realized my children were having issues, and I realized that the school that they were at previously had wonderful teachers and administrators, but there was discipline issues and there was other issues, and I did not like how much technology they were using in the school. And I know that is going to sound just completely like unusual and novel in this day and age to be concerned with technology in schools. But our kids are going to get technology. And my husband is a tech professional. They have exposure to technology in the home. We are teaching them how to use technology effectively. And so I am not concerned with their ability to be able to use technology effectively. And so I don't really feel like they have to have it in school. And I really do not want them having screen time every day. So we switched schools. We switched to a tech free school. And when I say tech free, it's not that they're like back in the Stone Age and they think technology is bad or anything. No, they believe in a classical education. They believe that books are important, that reading classical literature is important, that children learning poetry is important, because all of these things enhance their vocabulary. Also, there's been research that shows that children with different needs excel in non tech environments or with less screen time. Anyway, regardless, move the kids over to this school. They actually use textbooks, like actual books, textbooks for their class. And the only time they use a computer is to take their standardized testing. So my kids will go, by and large, several days without looking at a computer screen, without using a piece of technology. And I love that. Things have improved. My kids' grades have gone up drastically. Their interpersonal communication skills have improved drastically. They're memorizing poetry and they're just I have seen such a growth in my kids in just one, not even one school year, by switching them away from that tech based learning. And you know what? That's working for us. I'm not going to tell you what to do for your children. I am going to tell you what I have seen with my family. So, as I started researching this, as this came up, I immediately went straight to my husband because I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this. I can't believe it. How did I not recognize this? I knew about the 1972 study. How did I not realize this? And so we have become a lot more intentional. We started putting our phones away more. And like I told you, or maybe I haven't, my husband and I have decided to start using technology less on Sundays. And so we started playing board games more with our kids. We've started reading books to our kids. We're putting our phones away at dinner time so that we're not getting distracted. We are looking at our kids, asking about their day more. When I play with my baby, um, I don't have my phone around. And if I have my phone around, she reacts. She tries to take my phone from me because she knows that that phone is going to distract mommy from her and she does not like it. And I love that because you know what? She's my priority. She is what's important, not my phone, not the latest social media, whatever craze, not the latest breaking news. You know what? I have time in my day for that. And I will set time in my day for that. But my kids are my priority. I am a mother for a reason. And it just blew my mind. So let's just recap. there are some definite issues. And again, with the still face thing, the emotional reaction, I will clip this. There's a YouTube clip. I will put it in the link in the description of this so you can look at it yourself. I'm not telling you what to think. I'm not telling you what to do with your family. I am telling you about, I just want you to know because I care. And I realized that I was letting my cell phone come between my relationship with my kids and me, between my relationship with my husband and me, and my relationship with others. Technology is fabulous. I am so grateful for technology because it helps us stay linked with my husband when he is away with the military. I am so grateful because as a military family, it has allowed my the kids' grandparents, parent, grandparents in general, to be able to see the kids at award ceremonies for school or whatnot when they can't physically be there. But at the same time, if we don't keep it in its place, if we are not the masters of technology, too easily technology can become the masters of us. So, I hope this is helpful. I hope that you're able to take some of these suggestions or different things, maybe be more intentional about your screen time, more intentional about when and where you're using your smartphone so that you are giving your kids the undivided attention they need so that they can feel your love and they can grow and develop. That we're taking those times to read with our children, to play board games, go for walks, actually connect in ways that will help them develop these interpersonal and communication skills that will be vital for the rest of their development. Because I know how important this is, I wanted to share that with you. So maybe if you're seeing issues and you want to make a change, if you're needing to make changes, you've got some ideas. Or maybe this is just something that, like me, you just hadn't thought of it that way before. And so it's something new to think about. I just wanted to get this to you so you can do what you need to do with this information. And please keep sending me stuff. You guys, if you find a research study that you're interested in or an article about a research study and you're wondering, is it a high quality study? What are the ramifications? What are the resources? Just let me know. I love digging into these research studies and I love it when people point these things out to me. I want to be able to share these. If there is something like that you are interested in, please let me know. Send me those, comment. I'm on Twitter. So I won't, like I said, I'm setting boundaries. So I will be on Twitter certain days to respond to people's questions and comments and suggestions. But if you have something you want to reach me, Twitter is a really great way to reach me um, about stuff regarding the podcast. So it's Sam Wolf on Twitter. It's got my Life of the Military Life. It's got my logo for the podcast, so you'll know it's me. It's Sam Wolf 24/7, I believe. I'll put my Twitter in the description also, but just, reach out to me. If there's a research study you're wanting me to look into, things like that, let me know. I hope you're all doing well and that the information that was covered just can help you in some way. Maybe you have kids, maybe you don't, but most of us interact with children in some way, especially in the military community. You're interacting with children. And so I hope this can help you in the way you are interacting, even just as an adult, with your friends and family. So, as always, I am your host, Sam Wolf, and you've been listening to Life of a Military Wife.